Good morning, everyone, and welcome back for day 2 of the 2025 EUROCAE Symposium. I really hope that you enjoyed the dinner as much as we all did yesterday evening, including the awards night, which is always a very special moment of the year to recognize those that go the extra mile and achieve consensus, bring the standards forward. So, welcome back. Day 2 will bring us a keynote speech from the European Commission, which we'll go into in a second, a talk with IATA on some of their priorities, then a session on the airports and the future of the airports, a session on innovative aerial services, including a short video message from ICAO, and then the topic of sustainability sandboxes and looking at the climate change effects on aviation. So I think this is something very interesting. We have a great program lined up for the day. Obviously, none of this would be possible without the sponsors. So big thank you again to all of you, to Airbus, Indra, and Denaire as our gold sponsors, Colin for silver, Skyguide, Frequentis, Honeywell, and Anzen as bronze sponsors, and the European Commission for their ongoing support. A bit of housekeeping before we go in, so ask your questions. Here's the Slido again. If you lost the page since yesterday evening, make sure that you scan the code or put in the hashtag EUROCAE 2025 as we go along. Again, we will be using the same Slido reference for all day. The password for the Wi-Fi, EUROCAE Symposium, it's a very easy password, standard. And then obviously follow us on the social media, share your experience, tweet, put LinkedIn posts up. I've seen a lot of LinkedIn posts yesterday already. Thank you for that. It's always great to see communication on their LinkedIn X and Blue Sky. And with that, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first speakers of the day, which will be in 2 parts. So, the European Commission is represented today with Flor Díaz, who is the new head of unit for the Single Sky unit since January this year. You remember last year in Lucerne, Christine Berg gave us a very inspiring speech on the EU policy context. Flor will do the same today in a short video message. And then Lendina, who's the policy officer, that's our main contact point and in charge for standardization, will give us a speech a little bit more focusing on the practicalities. So with this, over to Flor.
Good morning, dear members of EUROCAE and dear colleagues. I am really pleased to be here with you and to be greeted in the opening of the second day of the EUROCAE Symposium 2025. I am sorry for not being able to be with you in person today, so virtually it should be, but I am looking really forward to meeting all of you in person next time. I will take advantage of the 5 minutes that has been allocated to me to provide you with a brief but telling overview of where we stand today regarding the air traffic management, the ATM inefficiencies and the way forward. And regarding, first of all, the why we need really to address these European ATM inefficiencies, we all know that 2024 was a difficult summer and that 2025 will be another very busy summer. And I do not need to explain to you, the technical aviation community, that the way we address the inefficiencies in management and the fragmentation of the European airspace is critical to increase the capacity and to reduce the delay. And for that, we urgently need 2 things. First of all, to improve the performance of the air navigation service providers, to the INSPs, so that they can accommodate the projected capacity increase while reducing the current delays. And the second challenge we have is that we need to do this, accommodating increasing capacity while decreasing the delays, with less best available airspace, because we know that due to the war in Ukraine, 20%, roughly speaking, of the European airspace has been is outside the possibility of being used now. And secondly, while we need to we need to face, sorry, I was mixing with French, we need to face increasing weather-related events. So this is the why. The how we in the Commission, in the European Union, we consider that is the best way forward to tackle these challenges. First of all is by enhancing air traffic management with the Single European Sky, the SES2 Plus regulation that came into force in December last year. We know, we are fully persuaded that SES2 Plus is a step forward for efficiency in European airspace, and that it will help improving air navigation services. And it will improve modernizing the European ATM services as well. How are we going to do that, or how the SES regulation does it? Through better incentives, through better network coordination, and through better advanced technology deployment within the CESAR project. We know as well that the regulation introduces more choice for the INSPs on how to organize the service provision, including the option to buy services on the market, which is a complete novelty. And let me allow to start with this one, the innovative service provision. As I have just said, today air traffic service providers and airport operators have more choices thanks to SES2 Plus as to how they organize the service they provide. And these include the possibility to buy services on the market. But at the midterm, the INSPs will be able to provide more innovative data services thanks to a fully fledged regulatory framework for air traffic data services. And all these will create opportunities to modernize the sector, including through a data layer, which will open the door to more interoperability between different services providers. And that will, in turn, increase and facilitate cross-border operation. The second thing we need is capacity on demand, is the possibility that services are run by different providers, which will create more flexibility to, at the moment, to respond to these new changes in demand. And these developments should help the sector to put in place a new service delivery model supported by a cloud-based data processing and artificial intelligence-empowered assistance solutions in line with the ATM master plan. I know that it looks like a jargon for the people who are not in the sector, but we strongly believe, and I think there is a consensus there, that a new service delivery model where all the data will be supported in a common cloud and where artificial intelligence will help assistance solutions are the key for the modernization of our ATM and our air navigation service providers world. And to manage, again, the third point I wanted to mention is that to manage this growing demand, the interoperability and the connection between the civil and the military stakeholders is key in order to increase the flexibility with which we can use more or less of our airspace depending on the defense and the military needs. Finally, I would like to mention, and we are at EUROCAE, the fact that this innovative service provision will require new forms of standards. We expect the need for more performance and service-based standards will be required. And this will bring new challenges for the industry and for the standardization development. So for you, you will need to address all these new challenges with the cybersecurity threats and risk increasing in the whole digitalized and distributed system. So there is indeed a big necessity for standardization, and the circumstances are even more challenging than they used to be in the past before the 2022 and the war of aggression from Russia to Ukraine. The second pillar of the four things that we are improving thanks to SES2 Plus is the infrastructure manager. SES2 Plus will strengthen the European ATM network. It will reduce the risk of congestion and the risk of flying suboptimal flight routes. And the revision of the rules on the network management that are based on the new regulation, and they will be adopted between 2025 and 2026, will increase focus on promoting what is best for the European network and not only for the national interest. Again, the final pillar on this point is the fact that thanks to CESAR, we will be deploying CESAR solutions efficiently, and our aim is always a network-wide impact and improvement, as I said before, of all the European ATM issues. Then the third leg, first of all, is the CESAR, the second is the network manager, the third leg is the performance review body. I will not take long there, just to let you know that there is this new performance review body that is similar but not identical to the platform that existed before. It will start being operational in the second half of 2025. It will advise the Commission and will provide technical expertise for the setting of targets and for the regulating the performance of the monopoly air navigation services providers in Europe. And at the same time, SES2 Plus improves not only the independence of this new PRB body, but the independence of the national supervisory authorities and the transparency of the air navigation service providers' accounts. I'm getting to the end. The final point that I wanted to bring you before closing is addressing workforce's challenges. We know that we need to tackle the shortages in the number of controllers, and for that we are working through updating training, making it more flexible, and focusing on a system-based approach rather than the current geographical approach. Here again, standards are key to achieve the harmonization of working methods in the ATM world in Europe. And with this, I am getting to my closing remarks. We know that we all need to work collectively to increase capacity within the network in the short run and to improve the cost efficiency of services while reducing the environmental impact of ATM. Working together is the only way we can achieve all this at the short, medium, and long-term run, and notably at long-term when we are shifting towards more automation. I would like to finalize to thank you, EUROCAE, for having been such a reliable partner in aviation standardization over the years. I wish you the best for this successful event, and I will leave to Lendina, who will be later with you, to develop further with in more detail the different areas of cooperation. Thank you very much and enjoy the day.
As already introduced by Anna and by Flor, I'm a policy officer working in the Single European Sky Unit, and now one of the topics that I am managing is also our collaboration with EUROCAE. EUROCAE has been our trusted partner for many years, and we look forward to continue this very successful collaboration. Flor mentioned the most important elements of SES2 Plus. What I would like to highlight, it's some of the elements of her speech. Transport and mobility are strategic to European autonomy and security, and the focus of this Commission in particular is sustainable and competitiveness, and competitive transport sector, along with a secure and resilient system. So the European aerospace industry and ATM industry are already good examples of competitiveness, and what we count to do in the Commission is to support that this industry, that this leadership position continues to evolve and grow. One of the areas that we think will help, like Flor mentioned, and it was also mentioned yesterday, is the new ATM service delivery model. We believe that the transition to open digital architectures, to artificial intelligence, to data mining, to data services, is one of the areas which will permit our industry to stay in this leading edge and in this leadership role, and not only in Europe, but worldwide. So it is a necessary step forward. for us to keep the competitiveness edge. I think the shift to these new technologies, it's also important for talent acquisition, for attracting young, talented people to come and work in our industry. Now, this particular topic is very fun to me because I started in 2005 as a fresh computer engineer working in an NASP, in flight and radar data processing, and I was a bit taken aback by the fact that technology that we were using in our NASP was old, was proprietary protocols, and compared to my friends in other industries, I felt that it was not the latest word of the technology. And I think it's important, rest assured, I got a very fulfilling career in aviation during these 20 years, but I always keep thinking of that we need to make our industry, it's our responsibility, that young people want to come to work in aviation and in aerospace, and that we offer them a fulfilling careers in this new and modern technologies. We are aware that shifting to the ATM service delivery model also represents a shift for the NASPs from CapEx investments to OpEx investments. So we believe that already within the NASPs, discussions should start between technical and financial people to see challenges but also opportunities in this shift. And we are ready to extend these discussions in our framework, the performance and charging regulatory framework, also at the Commission level. So we rely on the commitment of industry on the ATM service delivery model. I think this was already clear through the strong partnership and commitment that industry has shown in the CESAR project, in the frame of CESAR, and with the adoption of SDO8, which is the new ATM service delivery model, which was explained in length yesterday by Andreas. And indeed, I will not talk much about the new ATM master plan because we already had a very good presentation yesterday, but for us, it remains the roadmap for the Commission perspective to modernization and the way forward to new technological developments in ATM. To this end, we appreciate that EUROCAE TAC work program has already included the SDOs. Really we thank EUROCAE for being always anticipating and proactively contributing to adapt the work program according to the strategic deployment. Now, on the deployment side of things, also another topic that we discussed yesterday was AF5 and AF6 of CP1, or FFIs and ADSC EPP. These two functionalities, we believe, are very important for us to tackle the short-term challenges that we have. Trajectory-based operations will help us to have flight efficiency and also the very needed capacity in the short term. Now we have two objectives. We have the short-term needs, urgent, really, next summer, next 5 years. We have the long-term plan, which is to make ATM fit for purpose, scalable, agile as a system. It's a fine balancing exercise between the two. What would not be a very good scenario is that we postpone ATM modernization to the next new system and that this becomes a moving target. So we count on you as an industry to help NASPs to find the right balance between making the right investments with today's systems in order to address the challenges and bottlenecks that we have today, and at the same time ensure that right investments are also made to the modern new technologies. Another area that was widely discussed yesterday, but I would like to mention because it's strategically important for us, is the ATM ground certification framework. We definitely support this work. I will not go into detail. We discussed a lot yesterday, but we invite you to help EASA to further improve the detailed specifications and to make the implementation of this regulation fit for purpose and useful to the ATM industry and not a burden. Now, one topic that we have been working in the recent times in the Commission, it's interference. It's also, I am sure you are already aware of the potential harmful interference of 5G networks to the aircraft radio altimeters. So this problem, there is no unsafe conditions today in Europe, we are told by EASA. However, given the FAA mandate for a radio altimeter retrofit in 2023, we thought that we need, from the Commission perspective, to be proactive, and we contacted other Commission services, notably DG Connect, who deals with the deployment of 5G, but also 6G in the future, so that we start to talk aviation and telecom industries and to prepare together, we finally prepared together a roadmap for the safe coexistence of these technologies together. Now, the roadmap has been recently updated in February this year and been presented both to the Single European Sky and to the Telecom. They have a similar committee with the member states. So in this roadmap, there are some deadlines about standards availability. I am aware that you are already working on this and that you are having challenges with telecom industry partners, but we, again, count on you, on your know-how, expertise on how to solve, to find consensus that we spoke yesterday evening, and we count on you that we find together a way forward on this important topic. Now, being in GPS interference, you also know that recently the GPS jamming and spoofing events has increased tremendously. These events particularly affect the east flank of Europe, from Cyprus to Finland, but they affect all operators operating in Europe in these areas. Now, we have been very vocal about this. We have contributed to a position on the World Radio Navigation Conference, ITU, for a resolution on GNSS interference. We will also tackle this together with the member states in the upcoming ICAO assembly this year and the ICAO Council meeting. So this is a priority for us. The situation is closely monitored by EASA, where as needed they issue safety bulletins. So again, for you as industry, as EUROCAE members, we would like to have your support, that you intensify efforts in order to develop the technical standards and guidance for systems that are more and more resilient to GNSS interferences or other backup solutions, such as APNT or other. Now, airspace is a common resource for all categories of users that need to be used flexibly by all of them. Now, aviation is one of the most established users, but we are seeing drones were the first ones, but other users like higher airspace operations are potential new users that want to access this airspace. Now, in relation to higher airspace operations in particular, our European vision is to enable this industrial innovation and market development. And for this, we need to facilitate their integration in a safe, secure, sustainable, efficient manner. Now, this introduction of this new type of operations will bring new mechanisms, new processes and services. And we hope that this kind of new services can be an incubator also for the modernization of the ATM system. For us, it's not a question of segregation. We really would like that we work toward integration of this new airspace users with the ATM traffic. So However, it is important that HAO does not disproportionately affect the regularity and efficiency of civil traffic and military operations. So this would entail that we develop proper interfaces between air traffic service providers and HAO operations that are established at state and regional level, so that a comprehensive traffic picture of the network is strategically developed and maintained. In 2019, the Commission tasked EASA to launch preliminary work to the definition of a regulatory framework on higher airspace operations. EASA built a task force and then in 2023 provided to us a roadmap for higher airspace operations, which included several options on it. We followed this up, and now since December last year, we have initiated an action of 3 years with EASA for them at the end of the 3 years to come with a draft proposal of this initial regulatory framework on HAO. Now, in order for EASA to be able to propose this roadmap, they need to conduct a lot of studies. A lot of scientific studies are missing. Data collection regarding these types of operation. What is helping is that also in the CESAR framework, there is an ECHO project that maybe some of you are familiar with, that plans to have some trials, some demonstrations with some of the high altitude platform, so that we can feed the data collection coming from these research activities also to the EASA framework, but EASA will also conduct their own studies. We are very pleased to learn that EUROCAE has already started to get involved, and that EUROCAE, as an initial task, will help EASA in order to further refine the market analysis of HAO, and we look forward that you as industry are engaged more and more in these important topics, because these users will definitely come, and it is also our responsibility as ATM industry to ensure that that integration is working in a safe, secure and reliable way for all parties concerned. So these were some of the main technical topics that I wanted to discuss with you. There are many more. Drones, we would like to thank EUROCAE and you as a community for your involvement in many more drones, artificial intelligence, like we discussed largely yesterday, and other virtualization, swim, etc. So really thank you for supporting our policies, for supporting our strategic set priorities as defined in the ATM master plan. And we look forward, as I said, to continue with you this very fruitful collaboration. I want to thank, in particular, personally, Anna and Guillaume for their personal involvement. I'm really happy to continue to work with them in the next future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Flor and Lendina, for taking the time to record the video and to join us here, so you can see the multitude of topics that we deal with together. And I would really like to thank the Commission and Lendina and Flor personally for the strong commitment, really, and the support that we get from the Commission, both financial and in many other ways, and the good relationship that we enjoy together. Thank you very much for that. Before we continue on with our program, I'm being told that a pair of glasses has been found, so if anyone's missing them, please feel free to contact the staff. So, and moving on in our program, I think we have a very exciting chat lined up with small change in the program. Still IATA, but not Rafael, but Jaime del Molino from IATA, the Assistant Director for CESAR, is joining me on stage now for a small fireside chat. As airlines are a clear stakeholder, where we... Good morning. We really wanted to take the time a little bit to look at our shared priorities, understand your priorities and our shared goals, and also looking back at almost 10 years, a very long-standing partnership already before that between EUROCAE and the airlines. But almost exactly 10 years ago here in Madrid, we signed the MOU between EUROCAE and IATA became officially the 200th member of EUROCAE in 2016. So welcome on the stage, Jaime, and very pleased to welcome you.
Thank you very much, Anna. It's a pleasure.
So tell me maybe a little bit, what are the priorities of the airlines today, and how do you see collaboration with EUROCAE supporting those objectives?
Well, thank you very much, Anna, first of all, and thank you for inviting IATA, and happy to represent on behalf of our Vice President, who unfortunately cannot make it today. He's on sick leave. Before going deep into our, let's say, priorities, I think that the audience deserve to know a little bit more on the IATA's activities and the essence of our organization. We are the International Air Transport Association. We are representing the airlines who are our members. We have more than 350 member airlines within IATA, representing more of the 80% of the global air traffic. And we have our headquarters in Montreal and executive headquarters in Geneva, and we have 5 regional offices handling other regional issues worldwide in different locations, so Beijing, Miami, Amman, Madrid, handling European affairs from the Canary Islands to Kamchatka, so it's the biggest region and the most challenging one for us. And our main, let's say, mission is to represent, lead, and serve the airline industry. And for that mission, we have to accomplish the vision of shaping the future by working together to have a secure, safe, and sustainable air transport. So I would like to stress the fact of the working together, the collaboration, which is something that we have been hearing during the event today and during the sessions yesterday. And in that sense, we are trying to achieve this, or to accomplish, to realize this vision and mission through 3 different types of activities. So the first one would be advocacy. The second one is what we call commercial services and products, IATA consulting, IATA training, IATA publications. And finally, I think that most interesting for us, and it's a common topic between EUROCAE and IATA, is the standard settings. So in that sense, those 351 IATA member airlines must be some sort of certified against a global standard called IOSA. It's IATA Operational Safety Audit, which is much more than an audit. It's just a safety program in which all those carriers, these 80-ish% of the global air traffic, should be meeting the performance in different domains in organization, so having common standards for safety and quality management, in flight ops and training, in dispatching, in cabin crew procedures, maintenance, security, etc. So we have in common that standards are in the DNA of both organizations. So going back to the previous first part of the question, in terms of the priorities, our board of governors within IATA, which are composed by let's say CEOs of airlines representatives, set the IATA's priorities biannually, and for this 2025 and 2026, we will have 5 main pillars. The first one is advocacy, so we are practicing advocacy in representations and in defense of the rights and the interest of the IATA member airlines in a wide range, spectrum of activities, as for instance, sustainability, safety, security, ATM, etc. The second pillar, and despite the fact that I don't work in that area, is the industry digital transformation towards, let's say, customer centricity, with the aim of building new digital identity standards for having a seamless customer experience with modern airline retailing. The third one is the part which I belong to, which is so-called OSS, Operations, Safety and Security, in which we have two main sub-pillars. The first one is just to increase and to modernize the IOSA program. So now we are moving towards the risk-based IOSA. And the second one is a very interesting one, which is the new IATA Leadership Safety Charter, which is an initiative endorsed by all of the CEOs of all of these 351 member airlines to promote safety culture, safety awareness, and common practice towards a safer aviation. So for the second part of the question, and how do you see the collaboration with EUROCAE? Well, I think that EUROCAE and IATA, in these 10 years of membership that we have had, we nowadays have to focus on sustainability. We need to progress on meeting the goals of the net zero 2050 towards decarbonization, and so that we believe that EUROCAE standards will play a critical role on that. And then, well, we'll have to also rely on our own participations within EUROCAE. So as you have said, we have been 10 years, we have been participating in the different working groups. Lately, I'm a member of the TAC, representing the airspace users and more especially the commercial airlines. I'm following up and monitoring closely all the hot topics that have been mentioned both by Flor and Lendina, and also the colleagues in the different panels yesterday. And I also contribute into the technical work program definition with our IATA priorities. So I think that's more or less, in a sense, the answer to this first question. Sorry for taking so long.
No. I think you touched on a number of very important points already. But as you said, airlines are operating today in an increasingly complex environment. Many of the challenges Lendina and Flor were mentioning, and some of what we saw yesterday already. So what specifically would you say are your top current challenges?
Top current challenges for IATA, well, IATA is a global organization, but with a special focus on the European region. First of all, we have the supply chain issues. So we have disruptive, let's say, supply chain in terms of raw materials, in terms of parts and components that are affecting to our members. Basically, they cannot modernize the fleet, and they cannot operate with a more sustainable or environmental-friendly way. So this is one of the first aspects that impacts globally, and especially in Europe. The second one is very much aligned with what Flor has mentioned, is the underperformance of the network. So ANSPs, DNM, and airlines are collaborating and working together in alignment with our vision since the last quarter of 2024 to prepare to get ready for the next summer, which it is very promising in terms of all the challenges that will represent in terms of underperformance and suboptimal performance too. So this is the second one. I will mention the third one, the regulatory burden. So we have increased different national regulatory initiatives that increases taxes, for instance, or imposes operational constraints on airlines, which is not appreciated. And on top of that, we have now the Trump administration who are doing policy by means of tariffs. And tariffs will deflate trading and will increase inflation, which is something that puts extra pressure on the airlines too. So this is one of the aspects that is also a critical item here. Also mentioned by Flor recently, the wars both in Ukraine as well as in the Middle East. She has expressed very well. We have to do more traffic with less space capacity, space availability, and this is an extra challenge that we'll have to face next summer. But if you think twice about that, it's a secondary problem in comparison with what the people is suffering there. But it's important to be mentioned here that aviation is being impacted by these armed conflicts. Safety, I think that both Lendina and Flor have mentioned the GNSS radio frequency interference as the main safety issue. No safety issues reported in Europe, but in other areas or other regions of the world, our operators are facing real problems in the air with passengers on board, which is something that must be handled and in which EUROCAE play a critical role by means of developing modern standards to increase resilience and robustness. Also, the 5G mentioned by Lendina, this initiative from the European Commission together with EASA is highly appreciated, and also the role of EUROCAE is critical here, as we'll have modernized radio altimeters in the midterm, let's say. And spectrum management is one of our, let's say, vulnerabilities in Europe because of the non-aviation actors who are entering into scene sometimes in a very reckless manner. And we'll have to manage that together in a collaborative and cooperative approach. Costs. I'm sorry to say and to put the cost on the table because, well, no one likes to hear about the high expensive prices that airport and ANS charges are having nowadays. So if you compare the ANS costs, the ANS air navigation charges 3 years ago compared to nowadays, they have increased 3 billion per year, so from 8.5 to 11.1 billion in terms of ANS charges, together with this underperformance mentioned by Flor, is highly concerning for the airlines. And new mandates as the Refuel EU mandate for both anti-tankering practices and the blend mandate of SAF place additional constraining on the airlines too. So these are more or less the main concerns. And finally, I would like to finish with non-CO2, with the MRV, with the monitoring, reporting and validation scheme recently established in a transition phase, this 2025 and 26. We have much uncertainty because it is based on models which are agreed but not fully validated, not fully tested. And we are in contact with CESAR projects, Iconia, Concerto, Galat, etc. But we believe that here the policy is preceding science, where it should be the other way around.
And I think it's interesting in all the priorities that you've just mentioned. There's obviously a few which are far outside the scope of what we can discuss and influence on the policy level and international politics and diplomacy. But you also mentioned a number of topics that are related to sustainability, and here really you mentioned airlines have committed to net zero by 2050. So how can we work together to help achieve this and accelerate progress towards that goal?
Yes, that's a good question. I think that we are starting to progress on the different pathways towards the goals of the net zero 2050. And if we sort all those pathways by, let's say, importance in terms of the decarbonization potential, first of all, SAF. So we need a reliable and available supply chain of SAF with availability and affordable prices for SAF and a book and claim. So in that sense, we believe and we envisage that perhaps more standards will be needed for the whole aviation value chain around SAF. Secondly, the other pathway where SAF represents like a 65% of the decarbonization potential for CO2. The second one will be the new technologies on board, new propulsion systems like hydrogen power or electric power or hybrid powered aircraft. That despite the fact that we have received some hints from the industry that perhaps these technologies will be delayed a little bit more, it is highly interesting for airlines, especially for those flying mid and short haul, and standards will be needed as a matter of fact. So this will be the second one. Operations and infrastructure is also important. Is one of the pathways which is having a potential of around 10%, if I am not wrong. We listened very, very carefully and very attentively yesterday to the TVO panel. So this kind of new operational concepts endorsed by ICAO, included in the ATM master plan, are super promising. FFI's release 1 and oncoming release 2, as well as the implementation of ADSC, EPP, and increased connectivity, new technologies for air-ground data link communications as LDACs that we saw yesterday, hyper-connected ATM in the future using COTS, using commercial networks, telecommunication networks for air-ground data link. It will be very, very important for shaping the future in terms of efficiency, in terms of capacity, in terms of overall performance. And here, EUROCAE also will play a critical role because we will need, as a matter of fact, those standards.
And indeed, a number of those standards are either available or ongoing,
Exactly.
but I hear there's a need for a lot more as well, and so a lot more that will come our way. We're almost out of time, so if you had to identify one key area where collaboration between the airlines and EUROCAE could be strengthened, should be strengthened, what would it be? And finally, what message would you like to share with the community of EUROCAE and the audience that we have here today?
Well, as I said in the beginning, for IATA, the European region is the biggest one worldwide, and it's full of complexities. It is very difficult to rank one priority over the others. So it is very hard to promote or demote. So for airlines, safety first, which is very easy to say, but it's very hard to accomplish. But also sustainability first, meaning sustainability as not just environmental sustainability, but also financial sustainability. So safety first, environment first, and business first, because no business, no aviation,
Thank you very much, Jaime, for joining me on the panel today, or on this fireside chat today, and for jumping in, for Rafael filling in, and for sharing these very interesting insights with us today. I'd like to just add to what you just mentioned. I really appreciate the collaboration with IATA. It's very important for us because the airlines are traditionally not so much involved in our activities. We heard yesterday a very clear call for operators to be more involved in standardization activities. So I'm very happy that we have IATA, that we have a few airlines. Since yesterday, we have an airline again on the council, which I think is a very good thing. But I think this call, this general encouragement towards the airlines to join is still one that we should bear together, and I'm very happy that with you we have a strong ambassador for our activities. Thank you so much.
Likewise. Thank you very much, Anna.
And now we'll be turning to another very important stakeholder in the aviation environment, which is the airports, and I have my colleague Alex and his panel lined up. Over to you, Alex. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna, and good morning, everybody. Welcome to our first panel of the day. It's called Shaping Tomorrow's Airports. I'm sure I've got my clicker working. Community expectations of airport operations are evolving, and airports are responding with innovative solutions to improve the passenger experience, airport operations, and environmental performance. Airports will also need to accommodate an increasing demand for air travel through a combination of expansion of facilities, increased efficiency, or new systems and procedures. The panel will introduce some of the innovations that are driving these improvements, as well as how AI solutions are supporting both strategic planning and tactical operations. The clicker works.
Wrong way.
You're going the wrong way, sorry. Okay, just a reminder that we have the Slido available, so if you would like to ask any questions of the panel, that will be available to you during the course of the presentation. And I now have the pleasure to introduce our moderator, Aidan Flanagan. Has been with ACI Europe since 2018 and is the Director of Airport Capacity and Operations. And I turn the floor to Aidan. Thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you, Alex. Good morning, everybody. And great to see airports up here on the stage and a stellar panel from across the airport community, both within and beyond Europe. And great to have the opportunity to be here to discuss airport interests in innovating and modernising and preparing for the future through the technical progress, which EUROCAE obviously does such a great job of helping to shape. I think for airports, this is critical in terms of developing for the future and helping us to achieve our goals as fully integrated elements of the airspace network. We're well beyond the age when airports were just considered a lump of concrete with a couple of shops attached. We are key players in the entire aviation and airspace environment who want to see a whole manner of shifts in mentality and in activity in order to achieve our overwhelming goals of serving the passenger. So this can be increased on-time performance. We had a lot of talk just now about delays. We want to go beyond talking about delay and talking about on-time. Unlocking capacity so as to accommodate demand. We know demand will be continuing to grow. We want to be able to make space for that. We want to be able to predict how things are going to evolve. We know there's always going to be disruption, irregularities. We want to predict and prepare so as to build resilience. And we, of course, have to face up to the key challenge of our time, and that is ensuring our sustainability. So as ACI Europe, we're doing a lot in this sphere to support our airport members through supporting them in developing airport performance, to observe, to measure, to manage their performance, and through aiding them in innovating. And we're going to hear today from several of our members in different spheres of the community, shall we say, how they're doing this. We have legacy hub airports which are growing, hub airports from outside Europe who are hitting capacity but doing a job of managing that and still managing to grow within the cap, while also looking to massive new developments for the future. And finally, from tech enablers, so technology providers who are providing the bedrock and the underpinning for airports to do this. So we'll look at their strategies, their technology, how you integrate technology into constrained airport environments, how we prepare for the future, how we attract and sustain the talent to support that technology, and how to operate in a context, political, public, where aviation is not always getting the support it needs, with some notable examples in other geographies. So my panel today, we have Jean-Marc Flon from Groupe ADP in Paris, who is director in charge of safety policies and compliant monitoring, looking across airport operations strategy, CSR, and deployment of smart airside projects, and who is also a very active member within ACI Europe in our Technical Operations and Safety Committee. Roy Posern from Fraport, who is a senior business consultant responsible for airside system development, and also a member of the EUROCAE TAC. Ismail Polat from Dubai Airports, Senior Vice President of Development, and Karl-Heinz Keller from SITA, who works in business development on airport operations improvements. So I think we have some presentations to get us started, and Jean-Marc, I'll let you kick us off.
Thank you, Aidan. Thank you, EUROCAE, for inviting me, Groupe Aéroport de Paris, to present. Last year I was here, I was in Lucerne presenting on counter-UAS and VTOLs. This time I have the pleasure actually to present a bit Groupe Aéroport de Paris Smart Operations Roadmap for a more sustainable future. I think this is an important topic. Sustainability is a must. I remember that Olivier Jankovic at a SITA annual conference was talking about license to survive. We are no more on the license to grow, but a license to operate at least, or even a license to survive. As regards a bit, I think the COVID crisis has been a major shock for everyone. So we realized actually that the aftermath of COVID-19 crisis, we needed to build back better and build back greener, actually. We already, as airports, had the notion of environment also incorporated in all our thinking, but we need to accelerate, and this need is a collaborative approach. So towards ensuring a sustainable future, we have to take into consideration various aspects. First of all, a moderate growth. Growth will not be as it was before 2019. We expect, you see there, figures for Charles de Gaulle forecast for the Charles de Gaulle Airport. We expect a growth of about 1 1%, 1.2, 1.5, 1.2% maximum over the years. So it is not more, so we have to ensure that this moderate growth, however, need to be accompanied in terms of infrastructure, in terms of facilitation to accommodate new types of aircraft. So we need to accelerate the environmental transition. We need to be more integrated in the territories, facilitate the connectivity. I think airports are nodes of multimodality. This we have to go fast on the intermodality. The train will be there. We have a facility in Charles de Gaulle, but we need to more integrated. And finally, we need to improve the resiliency and the efficiency of the operations. Efficiency is all it is all about. We will not construct infrastructure anymore, but we have to ensure that they are better used and more efficient. And of course, resiliency, confronting climate change, resilient operations is a must. As regards the notion of this roadmap, we call it safe, smart, green, and flexible. We have to rely more on electrification, automation, and digitalization. Digitalization is really important to make it safe, efficient, and environmentally friendly. We have airport challenges and transformation aspects that have to be taken into account. We have to become energy hubs, accommodating and facilitating green energies, the advent of electrical aircraft, the advent of the hydrogen aircraft, even it is pushed back a bit by Airbus, but hydrogen will be there in the next few years. We have to mitigate, as I said before, the climate change impacts, improving the turnaround process, which has always been a black box, and this is where it's a complex jigsaw, and we have to ensure the efficiency of the operations, to optimize the reuse of resources, and developing a green CDM concept. This is an important aspect. We have been going to CDM. Of course, in the decision-making process, we take into account the safety aspect, we take into account the capacity aspect. We should more and more take into account the environmental impact of our decisions and anticipating the network disruptions. As a figure is better than many words, this is a bit the holistic approach of Groupe Aéroport de Paris, approach on the smart operations roadmap. We see the various aspects that need to be taken into account: safety, sustainability, and efficiency on time performance. You see the various colors, the various projects. I will not go into the details. We rely on more automation. We want more predictability. We need to ensure that we are more safe in the operations, mitigating the adverse operations, especially when bad weather. Having also taking into account also the airspace management. Airport operators are there to take all these aspects into account. And of course, as I presented last year, to drones and the counter-UAS is also another important aspect to be taken into account. So you will out of the slides, this is a holistic approach. It shows we going gate to gate on a thorough approach on the subject matter. What we need actually to perform all this roadmap is a deeper integration. What does that mean? We need to have a better understanding of operations, to aggregate real-time and post-operations data analysis. We have to ensure efficient and green operations to improve the on-time performance, to rationalize the use of resources and optimize departure sequence, to also minimize the taxiing, to reduce the environmental impact of operations. A seamless experience between the airport and the network is also another important aspect. We have the AOP linking to the network operations plan, and we should ensure this, as it was said, we have also a network approach. We cannot only take into account the airport point of view. Deeper airport uses exchange and improve CDM. We should move from supervision to orchestration. Operational decision-making should be done in collaboration. Although we see that post-COVID crisis, actually, we have retrieved a bit on the CDM concept. We should rebuild and rethink that. Sharing relevant operational data, ensuring ground-to-ground and ground cockpit communications is also important to ensure a holistic approach with the relevant tools and a what-if tools to identify where we can improve our operations. Now, I will raise for my last slide is about the challenges. I think I want to raise the various aspects that the barriers that are towards this holistic approach. First of all, the European network impact. We see all the summer, this was said by Flor Díaz from the European Commission, with 2024 was difficult. 2025 will be as difficult as it was last year. The network impact is important. We're talking about ground delay, but the ATFM impact is very much important. And what we don't see is that actually the network impact disrupts the operations, disrupts the program, and it is not because an aircraft has arrived on time that it departs on time late, that it is a ground delay, because this could be also due to by other aircraft which arrived delayed, and the resources are taking into account these delayed aircraft and not there for the aircraft to depart. Digital transformation is also an important aspect. IT tools, most of the time we look at digitalization, we focus on IT tools and the development of these IT tools. We should more and more concentrate about the definition of concept of operation, use cases, and tools that support to these ones. Data relevance, we should ensure that in this digital world where we have much data, we should ensure data relevance, but most of all data sharing. We see the difficulties at airport operations point of view, with the airlines not wanting to share the data because they said this is their ownership. We are going nowhere if we don't share the data. Finally, in this digital transformation, this was said yesterday, the role of human has to be into account. On innovation, how we move from proof of concept that we experiment into industrialization, taking into account the change management, the cultural changes that are needed. Off the shelf versus in-house, most of the time we would prefer to rely on in-house, but it is really the best solution. We should also decommission. We are putting layers over layers and not decommissioning. This is not good. The regulatory framework also should accompany this innovation to facilitate it and accompany it. And finally, airport operator as a ground coordinator, this is an important aspect. We are not only infrastructure provider, we are there to orchestrate airport operations, which are complex jigsaw. We should review the governance between the airlines, the airport operator, the ground handling service provider, and the air navigation service provider. We should move towards finally what is total airport management, which for the time being is more a concept than really being used in the various airports. Thank you for the attention.
Thank you very much, Jean-Marc. In addition to your work with Groupe ADP and your wide activity within ACI Europe, you are chair of our Single European Sky Steering Group. We heard from Flor earlier the supposed benefits that SES 2+ will bring. I think those of us active in the area know there was ambition, and then what we have now is reality. And we talked yesterday about delays, and we see here this delay situation. By some metrics, delays last year were as bad as they were before Single European Sky was even invented. Talking of the regulatory framework, where do you feel we should be going next? How do we get to that ambition finally?
I think we should avoid to work into silos. For me, this is the most important aspect. We still see at an airport silos, airlines having contract with ground handling service provider, the airport operator trying to have leverage on these aspects, having not the appropriate governance, and the air navigation service provider, which is having not contractualized the performance actually. For me, we should renew the governance and the collaboration within an airport with the various stakeholders. And not least actually to have this network view, which was raised beforehand by Flor Díaz Pulido.
Excellent. I think we'll come back to these points later in discussion. I think let's hear from another airport now, also within Europe, over to Roy.
Yeah, maybe I'll go there.
Sure.
Yeah, so thank you for the introduction, and thank you, Jean-Marc. Basically, I don't want to repeat just replacing Charles de Gaulle by Fraport. It's more or less the same what we face in Frankfurt as well. Anyway, I want to tackle a bit different aspects that we face in Frankfurt. You said before you had the license or the chance to survive. And we have a little license to expand. We will get a new terminal in Frankfurt, which will come next year. I will go into that. What we did in the COVID crisis, so we also faced, of course, a big recession for a short time. Now we are back to the 2019 figures in Frankfurt, but we took the time to develop a strategy of what we want to achieve by the year 2030. This is what you see here. We have 3 strategic priorities which we developed and what challenge we have in the daily life. So one is the growth and sustainability, of course. Both things together on purpose. We want to grow again. We have to grow because the passenger demand will be there. So no chance of staying there where we are, but growing in a green way, in a sustainable way. That is important. So that both go along with each other. The next one is efficiency and innovation. I'll come into that as well, talking about automation and new concepts of operation. And we want to be the employer of choice. That was said before. Lendina said this very well. Airports are not very attractive nowadays. It all started years ago with the flight shaming. It's the technology that we have nowadays is not really new and not state of the art. So young people want to go into more innovative sectors and don't want to work at the airport. So we have to do something. It all works in the spirit of cooperation. That was said many, many times here. That's the whole heart of the whole thing. To collaborate. And what goals do we want to achieve? Yeah, we want to be there for our customers. We want to not make losses. We want to earn money, of course. And how do we do that now? I try to be short in those slides because I've said everything already. So we want to be, by 2030, the company with the world's best expertise on operating climate-friendly airports. I think all the airports want to have that, so it's a challenge between us. And we want to be financially successful and want to develop international business. So you know, Fraport is also not operating only Frankfurt Airport. We operate a lot of small airports in the Greek islands, in Bulgaria, in Turkey, also in South America. So we can transfer our knowledge into our company. We want to be efficient, innovative. We want to convince our customers. Customers are airlines, the passengers, the ground handlers, a lot of customers. And we want to work in a frictionless and innovative way. And I said already, we want to be employer of choice. Internationally, we have a good portfolio. People should actually be attracted by us, and we are working on that. So how does that look now? What challenges do we face in order to achieve the goals, to meet our strategy? I pick 3 things here. One thing is the excellent infrastructure and safety standards that we have to deploy. Here you see an aerial photo of our new Terminal 3. So this is our last license to grow in Frankfurt, so basically in the southern side. There used to be an Air Force base until the year 2006. It was returned by the Americans to the city of Frankfurt, and the city of Frankfurt decided to hand it back to the airport and give us room to build a new terminal. It's almost done. You can walk inside now, and we want to open this terminal next year spring, late spring for the summer peak. This terminal will be ready, as you see it here, with 3 piers and a big terminal building. And the tower is not an ATC tower, it's an apron control tower for the Frankfurt Airport apron control. It will be ready for 20 million passengers. And it will be ready for containing state-of-the-art technology. The second challenge that we have, of course, is a great airport experience. I said that before. We want to delight the customers, the employer of choice thing. And how do we do that? We want to make all the processes for all of you when you go through Frankfurt Airport as convenient as possible. We use biometrics for scanning the fingers and have the biometric border control. We want to have automated baggage drop-off, which works, interoperable with all the airlines at the airport, and all the security checkpoints shouldn't be a pain to wait for a long time and to have to unpack your baggage in front of the people and lose time. No, it should be just as smooth as possible. And the next challenge I want to go into is the efficient digital processes. This is something very key for us. We do not know yet how in detail what in detail that means for us, but technology is changing. Technology is changing rapidly. Data is available now, and we need to growing by deploying this new technology. And we want to be efficient with that. So just by adding new people to old processes doesn't help. So we have to change processes, get the data in, get new technology, and be as efficient as possible. And that can only be done with AI, that was said before, and automation as much as possible. So we have two initiatives to cover the last challenge that I said. So the innovation comes through the artificial intelligence initiative, which is crucial for us. It will cover the whole airport system. It will, for projects which are running currently, is that we want to handle the increasing passenger volumes by AI. So providing information in the terminal buildings to the passengers, providing information to smartphones, providing information where to go, where the passenger flow would work best, by sensors that detect the passengers, supported by AI is one pillar. The other one is the ground services that now still have paper sheets where you work in the next shift, which all this resource planning is old school and will be changed to modern state-of-the-art resource planning systems supported by AI. One important thing on the air side will be the forecasting of process durations, so using computer vision-based video analysis where we are in a turnaround process in order to forecast when the planes will go out and when they will be ready, and if there's a problem and support is needed, can also be supported. And of course, for our everyday life, we also need to improve our daily workplace using ChatGPT and other things, but in a secure and safe way. So that's also supported by AI. And the next initiative is, we call it AeroIS, Autonomous Systems for Airports initiative, together with other airports. That is the first step into autonomy. We do not know yet what can be done autonomously. We are in the brainstorming phase, but we know that a lot of things, a lot of processes which are covered by a lot of people, boring work, which can be done easily by autonomous robots, can help us be efficient and support our goals. And so we are developing use cases together with all those airports. Why do we pool? We pool together because we want to attract the outside industry, because just as a Fraport, we can't say, okay, well, deploy some autonomous cars at our airport, and that's the only selling point. We have to work together because we need to scale a bit and attract and compete with big cities and big ecosystems. And of course, we want to drive the standards, now being here in EUROCAE, when we know what we do on the air side when it comes to handling processes of aircraft, and we do that with autonomous approaches. We need to, of course, establish standards that it can be reused at other airports as well. One last slide to go into the ground coordination. Jean-Marc said that as well for Aéroport de Paris. So we have to digitalize, we have to exchange data, we have to smartly use our data, and we need to optimize a lot of processes. Such a turnaround process is a very complex process with a lot of sub-processes, and there's a huge potential to optimize. You can only do that if you know about the data, if you train models, use artificial intelligence, use predictions. That's what we are doing. That's what Jean-Marc called also the total airport management approach, so we are into that as well. We started out with the ground coordination, so we do demand and capacity balancing so that we fill the demand through the whole day of the airport, so that we do have peaks of operations, but if there are still some little holes in the peaks, we try to balance that out so that the punctuality is as good as possible and all the processes work. On airside, on ASM GCS, we are fulfilling everything which is required by CP1. So we introduce the safety support service, the routing, and some parts of guidance service. And we also integrate the vehicles with a moving map, and we collaborate with the airlines in order to get data into the cockpit. We do silent pushback requests, silent coordination in order to reduce radio. So we have projects on that as well, and that's what we are doing. That brings me to the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Roy. So one quick question following that. We saw your nice brand spanking new terminal, looking very good. Is this providing you with, say, a test bed or a open goal to bring in new technologies to your airport network to benefit from this new infrastructure?
This is a very good question, which we have asked ourselves many times. So basically, you could think, of course, this is a plain field to experiment as much as possible, which we and the engineers want to do. But on the other hand, there are some airport projects in the past that failed, also in Germany, and took a long time. So we are quite on the safe side and try to establish well-known processes as much as possible. But of course, introducing everything for the passenger side, like the biometrics, what I said, and land side, we do a lot, state-of-the-art system, and we take the lessons learned from Terminal 1 and Terminal 2 to improve Terminal 3, but we are not very much innovative in the future because we don't want to take any risks. The innovation happens in dedicated sections in the old terminals where we don't destroy too much if it fails. On the air side, we are well established there. We do the computer vision project, for example, and a docking system tracking for pushback tracking. We introduced that in Terminal 3. So yes, some things, but not too many.
I look forward to seeing it in practice. Yeah. You know, the Dubai way, Ismail.
Thank you, Aidan. When Alex reached out to me to talk about shaping tomorrow's airports panel, I was quite excited because this is pretty much why I joined Dubai Airports 8 months ago from Istanbul Airport. And while I was trying to prepare all this presentation, I realized that last 25 years, that's what I'm trying to figure out still, how we can shape the airports of future, I guess. So we have I guess all that experience, all that projects, all that ideas, that's what we try to do that for Dubai for the next phase, which is Al Maktoum International Airport, DWC, currently operates around 1 million passengers with a small terminal, where we operate 92 million passenger airport at DXB. Everything is going to go to DWC, and it's going to, right now, as planned, as the largest, biggest airport, greenfield airport project for the future. So we try to shape that, and it starts with, for me, it started with trying to understand the Dubai and the Dubai airports. The vision and the mission was pretty much clear and set. Biggest and the best international airport in the world. I mean, very strong words. While we do the things and delight the guests in the Dubai way. And if you look at that, I think the numbers are pretty much well known, but it last 11 years consecutively, Dubai Airport has the highest number of international passengers. And the forecast indicates that at least the next 10 years, that's how it's going to be, continue to be like that. We need to be ready for that demand and for that expectation to make sure that when it's transferred to the new airport, we can continue that. And if you look at the impact of Dubai aviation, that's a study done by Oxford Economics. It's actually very strong. We always talk about airports being the gateways to the cities or their catchment areas, but for Dubai, that's really, really true, very interesting. The catalytic impact of the aviation facilitated with tourism, we're talking about 27% coming from aviation itself for Dubai's GDP. It's extremely strong number. And direct GVA is the gross value added. We're talking about 3.7% just from the Dubai airports. So the numbers are quite big. Really, truly, the airport, Dubai airport, is the gateway opening to Dubai, as well as connecting east, west, and north, south. And this is all we have to do that for now. 2 runways, 3 terminals, 4 concourses, probably the last major project done in 2016, and we still need to live in this very fixed infrastructure for the next 8 to 10 years, while the numbers go from 93 today to 110 plus million passengers. So we don't have much to do in terms of infrastructure capacity, but there are a lot has been done already with the help of innovation, improving passenger comfort, passenger experience, while they try to extract the residual capacity to improve the performance at the airport. And this is kind of their DNA. It's happening continuously. And we want to take that over to the new airport, as they call it, Airport of Tomorrow. Very strong words you see on the bottom, but when I look at it, what I see is that it requires really seamless, true integration and collaboration with the all sector, aviation sector there in Dubai, and centered around operations, guests, and our future. That way we can really make sure that while we design and put the operational concept around this new airport, we can answer the day one, while we continue and answer the 50 plus years coming after that, hopefully. The new airport, it's in design stage right now. The numbers are quite big. We're talking about 5 runway operation, quite big terminals with a capacity of reaching up to 260 million passengers per year, 12 million tons of cargo per year, daily over more than 2,000 ATM operations. So they're very, very strong numbers. So today, as airport, the project is to be ready somewhere in early 2030s, mid-2030s. But as airport, we already started developing the concept of operation, try to shape the airport. To be able to do that, we try to look at the future. We understand today what we're doing good, what we're doing bad, but the key is to understand the future of the guests, future of the trends, and the future journeys to make sure that it's a flexible operation and infrastructure design today can cater and still answer our needs and the changes in the operation side the next 50 plus years. So that's it requires a different way of thinking around in the design and planning and constructing it. We don't see as innovation or sustainability as new chapters in the section, but we think that those should be inherently at every chapter of development now. It should not be a case where we look at new ideas, let's try to do that, but it should be the case where we try to fill the gap and make sure that the flow of passengers, aircraft, cargo, stuff, waste and goods all seamlessly happen, increasing predictability as my colleagues mentioned. For that, we try to understand the future of guests. The big question we ask ourselves is what's the evolving needs and expectations while we focus on operations, understanding the demographics and shift on that, and then see what the expectation may be. This is probably today's answers for us. Tomorrow we'll have the answers change. We try to make sure that we can still continue the infrastructure and the planning meets those answers. This talks about what we have today in demographics of the passengers, what they do, how they operate, what they expect from the airport. But when we look at the change there, we're operating in the bottom left side, but the new airport is going to be operating on top right side, where today's kids will be there using the airport as their main hub of connectivity. So we need to understand that. It's not for designing for today, but it's for the tomorrow, and we need to be part of that change. That way we can understand the trends in hospitality, service-driven environment, making sure that free flow and zero queue, this is our idea, but I think we call it seamless. In Dubai, we call it frictionless processing of passengers and stuff and everything, while we keep the sustainable and holistic element covering everything. The idea of how we're going to develop that comes from the special value system that we try to develop. It's tough to read, but I'll try to quickly explain. The outer chamber is the guest flow, how the passengers flow. We have the same for the staff, same for the aircraft, same for the other processes. And we have identified several areas where, from revenue generation to hospitality to well-being, and we try to put the value in all of those processes and the flow, and understand where we can create the biggest impact. So there is no one silver bullet or one plan that can answer every element of the flow. Each one needs to be discussed and identified separately, but then combined to make sure that the capacity and demand is balanced while the resilience is still maintained. So we're talking about today a lot of separate processes, check-in, backdrop, immigration, security, all of that. We're talking maybe in the near future more connected, merged and evolving processes where we can connect check-in and security better, where we can connect airside, retail lounge, all those elements better, and even connect the city. But for future, we're definitely thinking about integrating intuitive experience with many-to-many relationships where we can connect Dubai, as the city of Dubai, to airport better. I mean, today you can check in your hotel in Dubai. We have a few places in the city where you can check in, drop your bags, and then you can just directly go to the airport. But you need to be there a few hours before your flight. If you can do that, when you have 1 hour to your flight, check in anywhere in the city, and you go connect directly to the air side of the airport, that's a different idea then. And we're working on that, how we can develop that concept with everyone, with ground handlers, us, even the road authority, to make sure that that connectivity is really maintained, and the predictability not just stays at the airport anymore, we're talking about the citywide. This requires for us to understand the future journeys, multimodal, many-to-many, air, rail, UAVs, all those elements needs to be part of it. Technology, as I said, it's going to be the glue connecting all of these elements. But still, even though the numbers are not quite high, 120 million passengers we're talking about, it's still they have the chance to make it personalized, immersive for our guests. And the enabling technology, or the idea behind it, we think it's coming from total airport management. As Jean-Marc mentioned, it's idea at the stage, starting with CDM, going into AOP, and hopefully we'll go into the total airport management, where we can connect ground access, landside, airside, and airspace, and hopefully the city, along with the destination, better to make sure that the predictability is there, to make sure that we have the total control of the process, so we can respond to any irregularities that is quite common in aviation. Today, we're trying to do that, being part of the community, to understand what's going on, what's happening, what's been planned. We're, as part of Airports for Innovation, for example, a group of 10 airports, we're looking at several key themes starting today and for the coming decades, but also with the decarbonization of aviation with the help of WEF, World Economic Forum, Airports of Tomorrow, and ACI. We're looking at how we can make sure that truly we can make the next airport more an energy generation place and consumer, making sure that decarbonization is set in the right way from the beginning. A few advantages: we have a little bit of chance of implementing of some of the proven concepts at our airport to make sure that it works in an environment of 90 million passengers, as well as a big sandbox, which is the DWC current one, with one runway and one terminal, that we can test these new ideas a little bit better with alternative scenarios there. Hopefully, but that will allow us to put the new Greenfield airport with the first mover advantage of the new technologies on day one, so we can be a total airport managed, operated airport in Dubai. That will be all. We think it's not enough just to get the technology out there. That's a nice saying from His Highness Sheikh Mohammed Al Maktoum, the future belongs to those who can imagine it, design it, execute it. It isn't something you wait, but rather create. So the real glue is the people. As Roy mentioned, this is something we are bleeding quite fast. And we need to catch up with that. The people really make sure that all of those ideas, the innovation, the sustainability, technology gets together and really combined with the help of the people. So I think the most important picture out of all of those presentations is the top right one, where the team and the people at the airport makes this reality. And we want to make sure that the next decade we'll have the right people in the right place at the right time to be able to deliver that. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ismail. One question for you, which I think probably on most people's minds. What advice would you have for the airports here in Europe to achieve the same goals, but who unfortunately don't have the good fortune to be able to develop such an amazing new greenfield airport, and who have to work with the limits of what they have?
Well, I mean, obviously it's nice to have a greenfield airport, to have the space to be able to build that. If that's not the case, unfortunately, we need to make sure that we have the best of what we have. There's always a residual elements, whether it's a passenger experience, whether it's capacity. We just need to make sure that we collaborate better. On airport side, I don't think that we do it well. I mean, EUROCAE is a very good environment that makes that happen in working groups where airports participate more and more. But ACI tries to pull every airport together, but it's not really there. We need to do that better to make sure understand the process, not necessarily the solution, because solution is based on a set of problems that you have on your environment, may not be the right solution for the other airport because it has a different set of problems. But if we can understand how you solve and how you achieve there, that can be tailored and help us to maybe solve the problems at our airport. Of course, having a big field helps that.
It's always nice. Very good. Karl-Heinz, let's hear about the technology which could help us get there.
Yeah, thank you. I would like to elaborate on this create, because being a supplier representative, of course, we also want to support the airports on the panel to create this future. Allow me a kind of a personal comment here, because all of these gentlemen on the panel are touching the topic of total airport management, which I personally have been involved since 20 years now. And I'm really happy that also people talk about me like the total airport management evangelist. I put this into my LinkedIn profile because I think that's a nice wording for what I'm trying to achieve, also with the help of the airports, but of course also with the suppliers industry. I'm starting my talk with, of course, all of these fancy items that we have in the industry to be applied based on AI, machine learning, and new technologies that are out there. All of the gentlemen here have mentioned those topics, and I don't want to go into much of the details, but I would like to take you on a journey with a use case of a stand gate allocator at a current airport. Those people are usually employed by the airport operator, and they are the ones responsible for putting the aircraft into the right spot for the for the passengers to move around, and of course to optimize the turnaround processes. The notion of the ground coordinator is one of these persons who is actually responsible for this and needs to predict the turnaround process. Some of these new technologies will help, like computer vision on the ramp, that you can identify sub-processes in the turnaround that might flaw the whole turnaround process. That's one of the application areas where computer vision and the assessment of processes inside a computer into a video stream can help to optimize the operations and to identify gaps. All of these tools on the right-hand side in particular, and the opportunities that are coming along with that, have been touched by my colleagues, so I don't want to go into details. Walk through airport experience, biometrics, all of those nice, fancy things that we can apply is something that we, of course, also provide to via the industry. What I would like to go forward is with a more high-level concept thinking, and my colleagues from César in particular, they will like that, but I will start off with the current situation. The current situation is as is mentioned here. We still have silos inside of the airport operations, not to mention all of the different stakeholders that are working together on this airfield. But we touched upon ACDM already. This is one of the parts where we actually collaborate partially. It's mainly a sharing of information, of data, that is predominantly on the air side. But what we are missing out is how to connect with the baggage, the passenger journey, the building environmental impact of the operations of the airport. That is done by a different entity at the airport. Of course, someone is taking care of this, but it's not really something that is a combined effort. So when it comes to the day of operations, and I'm just touching the day of operations, I don't want to talk about planning or anything else, you have to take into consideration, and Ismail already elaborated on that, what is the surface access? What is the energy management of this? Is the passenger going to be at the gate at the right time? The earlier I know this, the earlier I get information from technology, individual devices or whatever, the better I can plan for the turnaround and for the airport operations holistically. And this is the idea around total airport management. Bring all of these guys together. There is this notion of a central instance, and these services that has been defined by CESAR Total Airport Management Project are just the 4 kind of predominant activities that you have to support by technology, of course, as well. And I will not elaborate again on the human aspect that is per se the most obstacle that we see in operations. But coming back to the concept here, there is an entity that is on top of all of these individual activities here on the left-hand side. And this is usually named as the Airport Operations Control Center. You have seen airports where these centers are. They are physically Dubai has a large Airport Operations Control Center where everyone is co-located and work together, more collaborative. There's this notion of the Airport Operations Plan, so a commonly agreed plan how the airport is going to be working in the day of the operations, in time buckets of an hour or so. There is decision support needed because this complexity can't be done by a human brain anymore. The assessment of the data available is something that you have to support by new technologies. And some other topics like digital twins, dashboarding exercises, all of this comes along with it. So there's quite a lot of technology that we have to inhere into this. But coming back to this idea of this person who is responsible for the stand gate allocation, this person needs to have information that are usually in the airport operations plan. But this plan is, of course, hitting reality the moment weather comes in, a delay comes in, and all of that. So the person who is responsible for the stand gate allocation needs to get additional information. There we are coming into the notion of total airport management and some tools, some new tools that we have developed for using a data platform that is about to replace the common database that is usually implemented at airports, which is called the AODB, the Airport Operational Database. This is a much wider platform that incorporates the data available, and this is something that we haven't had when we started off with the total airport management concept 20 years ago. When I started off with my colleagues in DLR, we thought about this in theory, and we did some tools. We started working on some tools that were very much the same like the ones that are currently in use. So they have rigid processes. It's relatively clear how to define a turnaround process and what is the assignment criteria, but it's kind of carved in stone. There are airports who have 10,000. We saw airports with 10,000 rules of how to assign and gate to an aircraft. And this is very, very rigid. So with new technology, with new data that we are having, we can use those data and optimize those kind of relatively stable assignment criteria. And this is then giving to the stand gate allocator with some information about the optimization of the current situation. There we are coming with this platform. We call it, in SITA, we call it Total Optimizer. But you name it whatever you want. The idea is that we have a data lake that is collecting the relevant information. And of course, there is a data governance on top because we use airline information, we use ATC information, passenger information, and of course, this has to be governed quite intensively. But it's a cooperative environment, and there is co-opetition between the different stakeholders. But at the end of the day, the overall goal is to use the infrastructure of the airport as much as possible, the best way possible, not to lose capacity. And this is the overall goal that is usually done by someone who is called the airport director in our terminology. It's the entity on top of the Airport Operations Control Center, the persons who actually define the steering of the airport for the next hours to come. And this can be done on a highest level. You know, this will be distributed to the lower levels that you see on the left-hand side, the individual actors, on an agreed, for example, for 2 or 3 hours, for the next 2 or 3 hours on different performance indicators. Those performance indicators will be commonly agreed. So consider a hub airport that has a peak hour and it has to emphasize on passenger experience. So the shuffling around of the connecting passengers is the priority. Then you consider putting aircraft together, closer together, to shorten the walking distances of the passengers. But if you have a time with lower pressure on the demand side, you might go for revenue generation and to move out the aircraft with value passengers where you know that they spend much more money into your retail, and then you send them all the way through the retail because they have time to spend money. And of course, the airport operator, like Roy rightly said, they also want to earn money. And this is the idea behind it. So you can try to bring these high-level performance indicators into the direction that you want to steer from the above, the airport operations. This is based on deep learning algorithms. So we need a lot of data, also historical data, to assess. And then we give proposals back to the persons based on the initial AOP, this AOP, this airport operations plan. And then we look into the current plan and we identify, okay, how to change the plan according to these KPIs. This is then given back to the technical user interface that the operator currently is using. So he doesn't have to change a lot, but we give an additional augmented information about what is the cost of positioning this aircraft here, or what is the benefit on sustainability of positioning this aircraft here. And then this operator can decide, okay, I take up this information, or I better leave the plan as is because of whatever reason. So this is the kind of involvement that we try to bring the information into the operator, that they can acknowledge that, okay, this proposal is basically not that bad. We can even go for disruptive proposals, but I don't want to elaborate further because we are running out of time, I think. But anyway, this is how we consider the AI being used in the future in a total airport management approach and on a higher level to orchestrate the operations at airports. There are a lot of issues with that, and in particular when it comes to the discussion that we had also yesterday on the panel on how AI can actually help here. And I don't want to go through all of these topics, but they had been already mentioned before. But I think those are the issues that we have to take into consideration. And without further ado, I just want to hand over to Aidan for some questions.
Great. Thank you, Karl-Heinz. Indeed, you were talking about you having the AI-enabled total airport management to offer advice and to offer choices to the human. How do you envisage airports, how can they keep their employees thinking for themselves? Not just saying, okay, the computer told me to do this, I'll do it, but actually maintain the brain functioning and thinking for themselves.
Yeah, that's a good point. There was this digital twin in one of the slides. That is one of the means where we can actually look into, in a post-ops analysis, look into what are the proposals, what has been done before, the years before, or the day before, and what is to be learned from the implementation of a specific action. This can be used by training. So you will have a representation of your airport that can be used for people who doesn't have the experience to learn from those who are more experienced and had gone through this decision-making process. The other part is that, of course, by accompanying the current user with some information that is more dollar-based. So the moment you are putting this aircraft here will benefit you in sustainability on a reduction of CO2 emissions, which is then counted into a dollar value. So it's relatively straightforward. You will identify immediately what is the number that you can meet by moving into the proposal. But there's always this option to just stay away from the proposal and just go ahead with what you have planned before. So we leave the room for this. And the moment the operator agrees and sees that the proposal that we are providing to them is valuable and is useful, then of course we are turning into a more automation-driven decision-making process. So there can be a supervisor then just sitting there and let the automation in the far future, let the automation do whatever is needed to optimize according to these KPIs that has been set before.
Very good. So that's one thing we've heard a lot about this morning is the workforce, the team, etc. And the other part is collaboration, both within the airport, but within the airport company, but with the other stakeholders in the one airport environment, but also the wider network. This question to the overall panel, what do we need to get to a system where we're happy with the collaboration we have? Because I think we have heard a lot about it's not sufficient here, somebody needs to do more. What does real network-wide collaboration look like? Ismail?
I think the very first thing is that we all need to look at the one single truth of what's going on. So that's why the integration is important, that we all have, it's not, airlines should not have a different view of that operation, ATC or airport operator, ground handler, even the city. So we need to have this one single truth to make that enabled for everyone. That's the first step towards that. And the extent of the collaboration also should not just stay with that simple group, because you see that every process is connected to each other. Something happening at the end of the chain may really impact the beginning of the chain, and those could be two different entities. Initially, the idea was, okay, let's keep them out because we're focusing here. But the true collaboration, they need to get involved there too, even though they may not have a direct impact, but indirectly they can impact that process. Those things also needs to be managed. I think that's where the people aspect of it comes into the game, because in the same token, you don't want 50 people talking about some simple process. There should be a structure around that. That's where there's going to be leaders of that part, while all the other support elements will be there. That way, the true collaboration can really create some good results.
Yeah, so picking up on, we've got 1 minute left, so I'll draw on one question from the audience, which is about, from Stefan at Honeywell, who asks, are there efforts to harmonize CDM process? I think this kind of feeds into what you were saying. Do we need to arrive at one single definition of how to do this, and what can we do? I don't know, Roy, as our man at EUROCAE.
Yeah, so this is certainly something which is very important to that CDM is established. It's very helpful nowadays, and we have to continue that spirit of CDM in the future, and that goes along with the data. So all the data should be made available, if possible, to every stakeholder. So we heard that yesterday very often, so that's the same for airports, and what Ismail just said only works, and CDM only works if the data is shared. It's collaborative decision making, so you have to make it available to the community. But what comes with that is also to understand what the data means. So we call it internally, it's a data literacy program. It doesn't help if you provide somebody a timestamp if you don't describe what the timestamp, what the information item that you send to the other stakeholder means and what process it supports. To give that needs to be described very well, needs to be available in ConOps. And I think Eurocontrol is doing quite good work on describing those processes, and we as EUROCAE have to take that on and have to make the exchange of the data interoperable. So all our interoperability standards that we have are crucial for collaboration, basically. Other than that, it doesn't work.
Very good. If I may, I have one very last short question, so as to give Jean-Marc the final word. You mentioned facilitating connectivity by working with the railways in future. Does this mean in future we'll see the airport sharing this information with the SNCF so as to make everything work harmonized and bring the railways into the network as well?
What we're doing. We have a CISA project where there was an initiative between CISA, JU and the EURAIL, which is called a project which is called TravelWise, and we see all the difficulties nowadays to share the data. This is what I said, one of the major challenges for the future in digitalization is sharing the data. If we don't share the data, we will go nowhere, and we will not take the benefits out of the digitalization. And indeed, this is what we want, to share the data, to have a smooth and seamless travel experience for the passengers, because we're all doing that for the passengers. Exactly. We shouldn't remind that we are working for the passengers and not have this egocentric approach, which most of the time we see in the CDM processes, not taking into account what our main aim is, improving the passenger experience.
Exactly. Very fine words to finish on. Ladies and gentlemen, please thank my panel for their excellent insights. And if you had questions that we didn't get to, feel free to approach everybody in the coffee break. Thank you.
Thank you, Aidan, Jean-Marc, Roy, Ismail and Karl-Heinz for that fascinating introduction or explanation of some of the challenges and opportunities that we have for our airports into the future. And certainly the idea of a greenfield site gives tremendous opportunity. It's now time for our Frequentis coffee break. So please enjoy the coffee in the lobby, and please be back at 45 minutes past the hour for the next session. Thank you.